Thanks, Sipi. So world leaders are gathering in the Swiss mountain town of Davos Klosters for the World Economic Forum's annual meeting, which begins tomorrow. This year, as WEF marks its 50th anniversary, a new urgency hangs over the Alpine town. The prospects for trade and global economic growth, technology, multilateralism, and the geopolitical order face growing challenges. Let's get more on the story. I'm joined on the line by economist Isaac Matshego. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. So we're waiting for that meeting to begin, and the IMF just released figures earlier on that revised downwards world growth to 3.3% from their earlier 3.4%. How significant is that in light of the discussions that are going to be taking place at WEF?
Good evening, Zinga. I'll say to you that the meeting comes at an opportune time. I know that it's an annual meeting held at this time of the year, but what we need for this year in particular is a coordinated effort by global leaders, from politics, from governments, to business, to civic society, to really put an effort into stabilizing the global economy, into implementing measures which are going to help to reduce poverty and sort of bridge the wage gap between the high-income earners and the low-income earners across the globe.
We know that this year there'll be a focus on climate change, and I just wanted you perhaps give us some perspective on how that affects our economies.
Absolutely. I mean, we can talk about Southern Africa as a region. I mean, over the past 2-3 years, we've faced some severe drought conditions, and on the extreme, we've faced some sort of devastating conditions. I mean, think of the cyclones that affected Zimbabwe and Mozambique earlier in 2019. And these things really are hurting those communities which are highly dependent on agricultural production. So we need a focus on sustainability issues, the climate issues, to really try to mitigate the effect of these large swings in global climate conditions, because they are really hurting those people who are highly dependent on agriculture.
So Team SA this year is led by Finance Minister Tito Mboweni, who we've heard didn't take the normal team from Treasury as other ministers have done in the past. It's not the first time he did this. He also did this last year. What ramifications, if any, are there to that kind of action?
Well, I'll say to you that, countries sort of get to be represented by the presidents more often, but we've also seen countries being represented by leaders, not necessarily the president. Finance ministers are quite important because that's where they get to interact with world business leaders, because those are the people who, I could say, have got a huge influence on the flow of investment capital across the globe. And Africa as a region, and South Africa in particular, as a developing economy, is in need of, those capital flows. I'm talking here about long-term capital flows, not the hot flows that we sort of always see chasing high returns in some markets. So what we really need to secure is investment capital, which is really going to help expand our productive base, because that's how we are going to sort of create jobs in our country.
Now, I understand that sometimes a minister may represent a president. My question was about Tito Mboweni specifically not taking a team from Treasury as has been done in the past, and what the possible issues around that may be.
Well, I wouldn't really be worried about that, because remember, it's about relationships at the World Economic Forum. So when the minister goes there and he establishes those relationships, they can be pursued outside, the WEF meetings. The National Treasury team always travels to key financial capitals like London and New York, interacting with investors. So I wouldn't really sort of attach a lot of value to the absence of the main people in National Treasury and the World Economic Forum.
Isaac Matshego, economist, joining us on the line there. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News this evening.